Which movie villain do you agree with? The probe from the voyage home. All it wanted to do was talk to some whales. As I understand it, part of the idea of the movie was to have a compelling story without a real villain. The writers and director, Leonard Nimoy, understood that the probe didn't necessarily know the damage it was causing, as it was simply a side effect of its signals to the whales. That captures the spirit of Star Trek and Spock perfectly. The puppet master from the original Ghost in the Shell movie, all he really asked for was asylum. There is a scene where, before going on a rampage, it demands asylum and rights to a trial to which the humans pretty much ignore. It's only after demanding its rights then being denied that it decides to go guerrilla. Edit. Yes, I realize the Bureau are the real bad guy, but PM is set up as the antagonist from the start. Isn't the Bureau that created the puppet master the bad guy in that film? The brainwashing, mind control and ghost hacking it did at the start were when it was still under their control. After PM asked for asylum, they tried to kill it and erratic his team to keep from being exposed for conducting illegal research and espionage. Indeed, the other section was covering their tracks after accidentally creating a full sentient AI. Hade's not in any specific movie, but just the fact that he's always a villain despite him just chilling in the underworld, doing his job, and not causing mass genocide, like the other gods. The worst thing he did was kidnap a teenage girl, but compared to Zeus, the hero in all these damn movies, he's not that bad. Agreed. The vilification of Hades is ridiculous. It's probably because, with the Christianization of Western culture and our general discomfort with the concept of mortality, Hades gets rewritten to be a death god, even though that honor belongs to Thanatos, or something equivalent to the devil, and I genuinely hate it. Colonel Kurtz would train young men to drop fire on people, but their commanders won't allow them to write duck on their aeroplanes because it's obscene. At the recruitment station I went to, I got pulled aside and lectured for saying bitch back in high school and getting detention for it. Like, lady, you're hiring me to kill people. Didn't actually get through with the process but still. Chill the duck out. Surely the issue would be a potential disrespect of authority. That doesn't go down well in the forces. Doc Ock. I'm not saying that I'd sooner rob a bank than beg for grant money, but I get where he's coming from. I just like how that movie was made in the 2000s, but still had Ock carrying sacks with $$ out of the bank and throwing them at Spidey. Dr. Freeze. The guy just wanted to find a way to save his wife. Batman even once tried to help him with it. So many Batman villains either got the shit end of some stick or another, or were just really misunderstood and trying to get through with disordered thinking. Part of the reason I love Batman stories. It's to present contrast about how the worst moment of your life can either make you or break you. For every Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson, there was the Joker, if we believe Killing Joke to be his origin. The Riddler, Penguin, Two-Face, Clayface, Mr. Freeze, etc. The dad from Dirty Dancing. He was just trying to keep his underage daughter from ducking the local troublemaker. A local troublemaker he logically thought had knocked up a girl, got her a dodgy abortion, and was now trying to duck his daughter. Dude was just trying to protect his daughter from a predator, from the information he had. My favorite line in that whole movie is when said troublemaker tells baby something to the effect of, your dad did something I never could have done for my friend. After he saves her life, he isn't angry at her dad's dismissal of him, or even the accusations made. He's just thankful that his friend is going to be okay. That one dumpy line makes the movie for me for some reason. Barbossa and his crew from Pod C1, they found a bunch of gold coins sitting around, traded them as currency like anyone would, and were severely punished for no good reason. If you think about it, had the rum runners not showed up, Jack Wolf starved to death, or shot himself on the island he was marooned on, so it'd say that Barbossa's mutiny was cause for punishment. Not to mention they threw Bootstrap Bill in the sea stuck to a cannon to die. That's pretty messed up too. Chief Inspector Dreyfus from the Pink Panther movies. Maybe I wouldn't have gone as far as he did, but I understand his frustration. Well, I'm not sure if it was the exact same character, but in A Shot in the Dark, the first movie, he purposefully assigns Inspector Clouseau to the case because he's being paid off, so he puts the most incompetent man he has on the job. So I think it's established that he's a straight up bad dude. And in the Pink Panther Strikes Again, Dreyfus tries to build a huge laser and destroy an entire city in order to kill Clouseau. Wicked Witch of the West. Bitch dropped a house on my sister and stole her shoes, I'd be out for blood too. I mean, when your name has wicked in it, at some point you just have to lean in. Hades would not be too happy if I was forced to rule over hell by my younger siblings. Somehow the god of the dead is always associated with evil. Hades doesn't personally kill anyone himself. He just takes care of the dead after they come to the underworld. That is his job. He got the short end of the stick in comparison to Zeus and Poseidon in my opinion. P/S edited Hades' job title to be more correct. That's why I love how he's depicted in the Dresden Files. A powerful chill god who's much more responsible than his brothers and does his duty. Also, a dog person lol. T-Rex from Jurassic Park. Also, the Indominus Rex. You made a living kill machine with abilities that far exceed those of your measures to control it, and expect it to live its life in a small cage like a cat? Heck, even cats won't stay in cages. I was so irritated when I watched the movie. You make a monster amalgamation of mega predators. You give it opposable thumbs, and then you gave it a stealth mode, and then you stuff it in a tiny paddock it barely fits in, away from any social contact. Why the duck did you think this was a good idea? General Grievous's people were massacred by the GD for reasons that were false. He was then physically crippled for the rest of his life, outside of his exoskeleton, and was told that the GD were to blame. He destroyed as many as he could, and took their weapons as a trophy, to exact his revenge for the GD ruining his life, and pushing his people to the brink of extinction. It's even more tragic than that, when Count Dooku and the intergalactic banking clan offered to rebuild him as a cyborg. Grievous agreed on the condition they didn't alter his mind, but they did anyway. So while Grievous believed that he'd always been the cold-blooded GD hunter into the past, he probably wasn't as extreme as he is during the Clone Wars. And wasn't he intentionally bombed by Dooku and the banking clan for the sole purpose of rebuilding him and altering his mind? I haven't read some of the comics/books based around him in a while, but his true enemy would have been the insect species that warred with his species. Maybe I don't want to be the bad guy anymore. Edit. Guys, this is a quote from Megamind. Why y'all talking about Wreck-It Ralph Edit 2? AI this made it into a Reddit video. And so did the rest of these comments. I'm bad and that's good. I will never be good and that's not bad. There's no one I'd rather be than me. Goddamn, I love this movie. Poison Ivy. All she wants is more plants and less destruction. In No Man's Land she moves into Central Park I think, and just stays there. No crime boss approach. No city takeover, just walks into the park. Batman goes into the park, walks back out, and suddenly the city starts getting fed by these fast growing plants. I don't remember if they explain that part, but of the villains in the Batman universe she's usually the least tyrannical, I think, is the best way to say that. Batman made a deal with her essentially. He won't take her to the prison for her previous crimes/help protect her territory in No Man's Land, as long as she would grow food for the populace. Not a movie, but Robbie Rotten from Lazy Town. As an adult, you get it. You want sleep. You want cake. You want quiet. You want to be lazy. There were moments where you could be like I feel ya bro. Apostrophe. And of course, deep down there, you want to be the number one. Now listen closely. I kind of understand the Ice King's motives. He's just really lonely and he wants to be friends with Finn and Jake, and he wants a GF. However, kidnapping people isn't cool. He's also just a really great character. He started out as Simon and then slowly went insane after he found the crown and put it on. He forgot his entire identity and became the Ice King. Edit. I was thinking of Ice King before we had very much of a backstory for him. Sorry if this is a terrible explanation of Ice King's motives. I didn't think very many people would see this. I was just kinda bored. Ice King's desire for princesses stems from half-remembered echoes of Simmons' old girlfriend, Betty. Even his insanity was a conscious decision. A sacrifice he made after putting on the crown to save young Marceline. That episode still gets me every damn time. The Grinch. He just wants to live alone in his gaff with a dog and the Who people won't stop bothering him. And if you're going by the movie logic, then he was bullied as a kid by his classmates and teacher, adopted, and lost his crush to the person he hates the most. No wonder he hates people. None of that happened to me, and I still hate people. So I see where he's coming from. Not from a movie, but Scar from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Buddy had all his people pretty much wiped out by the government, and then targets government alchemists in revenge. Brotherhood did such a good job with setting up Scar as a villain, and then slowly revealing the truth about the Ishvalan Civil War. They really did, honestly. A lot of great character development through the series too, with him as a character and his role within the entire situation as well. When I saw Spider-Man Homecoming, I was like, hey, wait a minute. Adrian Toomes, Vulture, actually has a point here. The government and Tony Stark completely ducked him over with malice aforethought. After that opening scene, I was like, duck Tony Stark. I'm with Toomes on this one. My fiance has a theory that a lot of Spider-Man villains are analogues for disabled people and poverty. It's rather noticeable how many of them are physically disabled in some way and turn to supervillain stuff after being really screwed over by society. Making all the people Tony ducked over evil villains who the hero must beat is my biggest issue with Spider-Man movies recently. Megamind, but if you were to say that he wasn't a villain, then Hal BC has right, there is no Queen of England. He wasn't a villain. He was a supervillain. Oh yeah. What's the difference? Jared Butler's character from Law-Abiding Citizen. That movie fell completely apart. I'll say it, I've seen a lot of movies, but that's probably one of my top 5 for worst endings. Captain Hook. If a little boy chopped off your hand and fed it to a crocodile, you'd probably want to kill him too. Didn't he only get his hand chopped off because he was trying to kill the boy? To add insult to injury, he had to get a used hook from a second-hand store. Mutuo. Making stronger versions of existing Pokémon is basically the point of Pokémon breeding. But if he wasn't stopped, he probably would have killed all of humanity. Mew would have saved us eventually. If not, I have Mega Gyarados and Darkrai that can help out. Roy Batty. He's an escaped slave who is pissed his girlfriend and friends will die soon anyway from 4-year lifespans they were genetically engineered with. The main people he and his group kills or injures are morally bankrupt genetic engineers who became rich off slavery and corrupt racist cops. The book paints them in a very different light. They lack empathy and don't really understand why it's important. I have read the book. They are depicted more as machines than clones too. But the whole Mercer religion and animal plot shows that humans have lost empathy and have to fight to keep it from the war. The wolves in The Day After Tomorrow. Just some hungry boys doing their best. The real villains of that movie were the fools who burnt the antique books for warmth, rather than literally everything else in the room, including replaceable books. There was a whole section of tax law. Isma from Emperor's New Groove. Kuzco was arrogant and neglectful. Edit. My comment was meant to target specifically her feelings towards Kuzco as an arrogant person. I realize she was also a horrible person and didn't mean to offend anyone. Yeah, but she abused Krank a lot. She never liked his spinach puffs. The bloke from Inferno. Zobrist or whatever. Though sadly they changed the ending from the book. Whether intentionally or unintentionally, Brown really paved the way for a very compelling discussion with regards to population control. When you have a look at Malthus and the Malthusian growth model, it really does make you think whether or not Zobrist was right to do what he did after all. In the book, he releases the virus, which makes 1/3 of the world population infertile as a way of stunting population growth, tries to release the virus which will kill 1/2 of the world population. I prefer the book. But the change they made in the film makes sense, as it's easier to communicate the prospect of immediate annihilation than it is to hint at gradual impact. But the 1/3 infertile population in the book was way more intriguing than outright killing half. It's a sneaky Thanos. Magneto. He always thought humans would try to destroy mutants, and he was right because they tried. He might have not been completely right, but man, it's hard not to feel some sympathy for him after the shitty hand that life dealt him early on. I mean, he survived a Nazi concentration camp as a child. It's not much of a stretch to imagine it happening again to mutants. There are thousands of men on those ships that are just following orders. Really, mind reader? All the possible arguments you could use, and you use that one on the Holocaust survivor? Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.